Today, a former athlete came to visit the youth program. She was like around 16 at the time when she was training. She at first come just to bring up her younger brother. He was training, and we kind of got her involved with it. And she started to like it and started getting in shape and started doing. She competed, I think, maybe 3 times, but a lot of her friends would come and hang with her when she trained as well. But they were more in the streets. They didn't really have that family support or anything like that at home. And she ended up kind of like stopped coming around. And then we didn't see, she would be in and out maybe once a month, once every 3 months or so. So she came and she said one of the other athletes showed her the video I did on weed promoting mediocrity. And she says, "So how come you didn't? I didn't talk to her about these things when she was there." And I say, "Well, I did talk to you about those things, but you say everything will be okay. You will never do those things, and I'm assuming you didn't because you were very adamant about it." You say, "Well, I didn't at first," and then she said she got caught up in it a little bit, but she didn't do anything more than weed. And I says, but she did say she had two babies, the two different fathers. They used to get high and hang a lot together, and one of the kids is born the distorted face. It's one of the signs of fetal alcohol syndrome, but she's still a baby, so they don't really know what's wrong. And I say, well, you just got to make sure you take the necessary precautions with these kids and make a change, because I think she's like 20 years old now, or 22. Um, so I say, just go ahead and, if you really you want to make a change so your next set of children don't be susceptible to those things, you have to change what you're doing. You can't expect change to occur by doing the same things. And I told her, I said, let me tell you about this lady that live around my way. There's a lady around here. She's a Puerto Rican, and she's known around here by Queenie, and she's Puerto Rican. She's in her mid 30s right now, and I'm telling this former athlete, this story. I say, well, I got a chance to speak to her, and she was telling me, yeah, she's from Puerto Rico. This is one of those days where she wasn't really high. My neighbor, um, kind of took her in, try and help her, but it's one of those lost cause things. And then she ended up back on the street. Um, so on one of those good days when she wasn't really high, I happened to talk to her because she was looking for firewood because it's winter this time of year, and she lives in a brick garage around the corner. They burn this wood, to stay warm. So I'm talking to her. I said I had the twigs and stuff from a tree that's cut down. So she was collecting that. I say, what really happened to you? What's going on? And she said, well, when she was young, she was at home. She grew up in a church, Catholic. She grew up in a Catholic church. Did her first communion and all that stuff and confirmation. And she was a pretty religious person, but she just had a strong will. She just wanted to um, do whatever she wanted. She think everything was gonna be all right. She met this guy um, after she came stateside. Because Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. Um, when she was about 19 or 20, I believe it was. No, she was 21 when she came stateside, and she got involved. She met this guy. She was staying with a family member here, but back home in Puerto Rico, she used to pretty much had a free reign. You know, she went to church, she did all the religious things, and she was really into it. But she kind of like wanted to do her own thing, thinking, at least that's how she said. She thought she could do her own thing, experience life, and still maintain her faith. You know, and all the traditions that go along with it. Um, I grew up Catholic too, but I don't really remember all the rituals and traditions and things involved with that. But she ended up meeting some guy. Um, where the hell did she say she was? I think in Florida. Some white guy who he was an older cat, and she kind of like he befriended her, and what the hell? Oh, I thought my thing just went blank. Anyhow, he befriended her, and he's an older guy. She's young. Uh, Showing her some things. He used to get high. She still was doing a church thing because I think she was with her grandmother here stateside. So she would still go to church and do those things, and then the guy started going to church with her and things because she was young. She's very pretty. She's still really pretty. I mean, she's really bony right now, but when she cleans up, she is very pretty. So I'm telling my athlete, well, what she told me was that she got involved with this guy. She ignored really what her grandma was saying to stay away from those type of people because you can go down the wrong path. And she said no, her grandmother's old as dirt. She ain't know anything. She's gonna do whatever she wants to do. So she ended up moving out, staying with a friend of a friend. There. And they're working and doing their thing, but the guy was always there around. Eventually, he kind of convinced her to take to smoke it. He says something along the lines, "Don't knock it until you try it," or something like that. So she tried it, and of course she coughed and all that stuff because she doesn't do those type of things. But him being around and he's like driving her everywhere and doing everything for her, and he accepted her for who she was and didn't really try to convince her to achieve anything in life. He was just being, accepted her for who she was while she experimented and do whatever. So she ended up sleeping with, having a relationship with a guy, and but she's always told the guy she wouldn't want to be with him if he kept getting high because he smoked a lot. But after a while she got used to it, and but while they separated, she got caught up with some other people from his circle that did some of the harder stuff, like what was the next one? She tried crack, and then cocaine, and then eventually went on and tried dope. That's heroin, and that's where she kind of stayed. She That became her preferred drug of choice. So she stopped going to church. She start hanging with that group of friends. She had a kid with the first guy. She ended up sending that kid back to Puerto Rico. Her mother took that child from her because she was in the streets, and somehow or the other, they brought her up to Baltimore because in Maryland has like a hub for sex trafficking, and she got caught up in some of that. And to make the long story short, she's now a drug addict. There's no going back for her as far as she's concerned. She's in it. She's done. That's what it is. And you know, she has accepted her lot to be a drug addict. And she's super intelligent, very, very smart. She speaks like a therapist. That's how how sharp her mind still is. But the drugs got her. So I told my young athlete, well, former athlete, you didn't grow up in the church, and you kind of grew up more on the street because your family wasn't really around giving you that kind of support. If woman could get a young woman could be manipulated, which is a lot of times by a guy, into doing things she didn't want to do, at first, but eventually decided to do it because she what she said was she wanted to be she was grown, and she didn't want the guy to think that she wasn't grown, and her ego kind of got in the way, and she wanted to prove herself and prove to him that she wasn't no little girl type thing. So, and of course, he pretty much manipulated that, of course. But I told my young athlete, you didn't grow up in that environment. You kind of grew up in practically in the street. So it's a little more susceptible for you to get caught up in the drugs and the alcohol and all the other stuff. But fortunately for you, you were smart enough to kind of like didn't go beyond weed. But now you have two kids. One of them has fetal alcohol syndrome. You don't know the other one has like speech delay, things like that. So that could also be fetal alcohol syndrome. But you have to go get tested for those, have them evaluated for those things. But being still young, you need to be able to be wise enough to make the change. Because if you keep doing the same thing, there is no change. Nothing different will occur. You'll most likely have another kid that might have more issues. So you have to stop smoking the weed. Come back into the gym, exercise if you can, just to clean your body out. Be around us. Um, we have supports to help you get your kids evaluated and things like that. And, take it one step at a time. I asked her if she was addicted to weed. She said yes. She became addicted to the stuff. I said, well, you're going to have to get some, you have to really want to change because addiction is a thing that's not as easy as people would make it seem to give up. Um, it really is not that easy. We all have slight addictions. In my case, I love sweets. I would stop for 3 or 4 weeks, but then I'll go right back to it. Except sweets might give me diabetes, but weed really, affects the mind, and the stronger drugs really do some major, major damage. And if you continue on this path, if the other kid really doesn't have any issues, just a little bit of developmental delay, and that child grows up, or either one, both of them grow up and they see you getting high, they're gonna most likely repeat the same cycle. I'm sure you see your parents getting high, and she say yes. My mother used to get high, smoke all the time, and say, well, you saw it and you saw it as something that's acceptable, but you're seeing the results of those actions. So just make a change so something you'll have a different outcome. So I told her about the story about Queenie. Well, she's still running the streets right now. I mean, sad, beautiful woman, and just got caught up in drugs, chasing after men, or in allowing certain men to have access to them because they're nice and they treat her nice. And then she ended up meeting some of the other friends and started, got pregnant by the guy. Now, son is in Puerto Rico. The guy is somewhere around, doing nothing with his life, the same way as how he was. He had a fairly decent job. He's driving a mediocre car and what have you. And his family is well to do, so he might be up for some inheritance eventually. But as far as his personal growth, he hasn't really done anything um, to be in a place because he got high. So, young ladies, if you're watching these, especially my young athletes, some of you, I'll tell you all to watch this because you're like 16, 17, and you all have the potential to go really far in the sport and in other aspects of entertainment or even in business. Stay away from the drugs. When you get 19, 20, 21 years old and you feel you're grown legally, but you're not grown mentally. You need about 4 or 5 more years to grow mentally and emotionally. So you're easily manipulated by older men, and because your ego could get in the way, you would want to prove that you are a woman, and you're free to do whatever you want to do. Therefore, you will do whatever you want to do. And men will manipulate you in a way where you think you're making the decision to hang with them, that you are in control of what you do or do not do with them, and you have the final say if they have sex with you or not. But in reality, they're manipulating the situation, using your own ego against you and your own youth against you to to get in your pants and to use your body. And in some cases, they may genuinely like you, but if they're getting high, you shouldn't be with a person like that, no matter how nice they are. A lot of our athletes, a lot of your friends, they're very nice, but they get high and they haven't grown, they haven't gone anywhere. And you, as young women, carry a significant amount of burden along with hanging with people that get high because you give birth to children and children are attached to you. You carry them in your womb, and those kids, whatever you ingest in your system, it goes to the kids. So it really damages the kids. And just like Queenie said, who said, she will never do some of the things that she ended up doing because, you know, just be, she ended up doing those things because she got manipulated into it and felt that she was in control all the time when in reality she was not, because at the time she was legally an adult, but mentally and emotionally she was nowhere near that. If you have any questions, ask it in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe. You'll have a good day.